Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another edition of my October Horror Film Spotlight Month. Alright guys, so I got another classic of horror, American horror cinema, and it is the 1981 American Werewolf in London. As you can see, I just recently picked up this movie today, man, so I haven't even seen it. I haven't even taken it out of the wrapper, so there's the price tag on it. It's a DVD version of this. I was looking for the Blu-ray, but I found the DVD. I just wanted it, so it didn't really matter. So it stars David Newton, Jenny Agutter, and Griffin Dunn. It was directed by John Landis, and like I said before, it came out in 1981. And the premise basically is, these two friends are, touring through, London. I believe they're out in the hills, touring some of the countryside of London, when they're attacked by a large wolf, which turns out to be a werewolf. And David's friend gets killed, but he is spared, but he's also injured. And what happens later on is that he slowly begins to realize that something is going on with him, and he turns into werewolf. At night when there's a full moon, he starts killing people, and his friend keeps coming back as a ghost and trying to warn him that he should kill himself, because every time the full moon comes out, he'll start turning into a werewolf and he'll start killing other people. And what ends up happening is that his friend keeps turning up every so often throughout the film, but each time he appears to him, he looks more decomposed until he basically appears to him in the final time, as a skeleton, still trying to warn him that he should kill himself. And in the process, he ends up bringing the ghosts of the victims that he's killed to try to convince him that you should just take your own life, because you know what? If you don't, this is going to keep happening. You're going to keep killing, innocent victims because of, your inability to do this. And it's that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I have to say that this is probably one of the first werewolf movies that I ever saw, and I was deathly terrified of the werewolf in this movie because of the way it looks. I mean, this werewolf, the way it looks is like, it's huge, like a hulking, wolf monster in there, and the teeth, the snout and the teeth and the eyes, they're also devilish looking in here. And I love that about this movie. There's just so many things in here about this particular film. Again, I remember before in one of the earlier videos, I said that Dog Soldiers was a really good, modernistic type of werewolf movie, but this one is the original. For me, the original type of scary horror, werewolf movie is this one, American Werewolf in London. It's the one that introduced me to that whole genre of werewolf films anyway. And I love this movie a lot. Again, these characters, what happens out in London. It's kind of interesting to see some, like, the empty subway station in London. I always found that to be pretty creepy, actually. So, and the werewolf chasing that one guy through the tunnels, and that was actually a lot of fun. And I think one of the most interesting things about this film is the werewolf transformation, because it's the first time I think that you're actually shown, that the werewolf transformation is actually painful to go through. It's not something that you just literally it happens, like your hair starts growing out and you grow fangs and you become the werewolf, like the old traditional 1950s black and white werewolf horror films of cinema history. But this one actually shows how painful it is to go through it, and it should be, because literally, I mean, you see that your skeletal form and your limbs start to stretch out as you begin to take form, and it should be painful as well. It should be. And again, the actor that plays the character that as he's transforming did a really good job of really showing just how painful that is to go through. And again, the werewolf costume, the animatronic that was used is actually really good. The blood and guts are also pretty good in this one too, and I really enjoyed all that stuff. And it's just creepy, it's scary, just seeing this thing hunting its victims and how it just takes them out like that. It's really a lot of fun, guys, and it's something that you should definitely have in your collection, of werewolf movies, especially since this one, like I said before, for me, I consider it to be one of the best, werewolf movies that ever came out, in cinema history. So I definitely say check this out, have it, put it in your collection. If you haven't ever seen this movie, definitely check it out. The only other added note that I want to say is I know that they did I would call it a sequel, It was the American Werewolf in Paris, and I think it tried to follow the same premise as this one, but I just felt that it wasn't any good. And one of the things that really killed it for me was the fact that they used CGI for the transformation and for like the werewolf scenes. You know, when the werewolf is actually there on camera and you see it doing its thing. You know, it was all CGI, and that really, I kind of feel like that just cheapened the whole experience. Like, what made this so memorable for me again was the things that I mentioned before. Is just seeing the actual physical transformation. You know, animatronics again, but it works. It's a practical effect, and it works. It just makes the scene look much more realistic. You know, and again, the werewolf is actually, you know, it's a puppet, it's an animatronic, but it's a big one too. But it's there. It's actually there, and it's moving around. It's killing and it's hunting and all that stuff. That's what made it, you know, that more realistic and more memorable for me as a horror film, you know, especially in the werewolf genre. So, and, you know, American Werewolf in Paris, I didn't like. I saw it, I didn't like it so much. It's like they try to do something else extra with it too, in terms of, you know, the pack, you know, the family of werewolves, things like that. It just didn't work for me. So this one for me is my all-time favorite in terms of horror werewolf movies, guys. So definitely, I say check it out. So again, guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I think it's probably the shortest one out of all the ones that I've been doing recently anyway. So I hope you actually enjoyed that one. I'm going to go check this movie out right now, as a matter of fact. So I'm going to enjoy it even more. So maybe next time I'll have you more of an in-depth little review of it, you know, anyway. So again, guys, thanks for joining me. Leave me comments on what you think about this movie and any other werewolf movies that you think I should be checking out besides the ones that I've used for this particular series of videos. All right, guys? So as always, stay safe and keep watching films, guys.